It seems there is a connection between this young Major General and someone here. Likely a familial bond. Otherwise, why would a distinguished military general, especially a young one, be present in such a public setting? Both groups simultaneously expressed their astonishment at the hidden talents within the city. Just then, a taxi came to a halt nearby, unnoticed by either party. Outside the examination hall, a photographer turned to Lu Saran and asked, "Sister Lu, what questions do you think we should pose to the first person who exits the examination hall?" Lu shrugged. "It's just a task from the station. We'll probably ask the same few questions as always and read from the script." As a star reporter for CTV News, she had previously achieved an 8% rating with her groundbreaking stories. Yet here she was, reduced to covering the mundane topic of college entrance examinations. She had been accustomed to interviewing leading figures in scientific research and military advancements. As Lu Saran lamented her situation, she inadvertently caught sight of a Hongqi vehicle. A Hongqi? She turned her head slightly. Although luxury cars were common in the capital, Hongqi was a rarity. Upon closer inspection, she saw a slightly portly middle-aged man smoking beside the car, accompanied by a slender middle-aged figure. The moment their faces came into view, she instinctively gasped. "Goodness!" The photographer, puzzled, inquired, "What is the matter, Sister Lu?" Lu Saran urged, "Quick, point the camera at those two." The photographer, still confused, questioned, "What is so special about them?" Lu Saran laughed. "Ah, you're simply not well informed. Look at that license plate, 00019. The owner is the lean middle-aged man. His name is Li Yong, a leading academician at Lonka Institute. And the man smoking is Wang Jiang, also an academician." Her eyes sparkled with excitement as several captivating headlines flashed through her mind. Shocking. Hidden talents in the capital. 2 academicians from Lonka Institute come to collect their children. Simultaneously, Lu Saran noticed that the 2 academicians seemed to be gazing at someone. Following their line of sight, she was taken aback to see an even more astonishing figure. Chu Jinhua, the youngest major general in the capital, standing at the entrance of the examination hall, seemingly awaiting someone. Stunning. Hidden talents in the capital. The youngest major general is here to pick up his child. Another captivating headline formed in her mind, and curiosity surged within her. These 2 groups represented the pinnacle of various fields. Who could they possibly be waiting for? Meanwhile, she noticed another taxi quietly arriving and pulling up to the roadside. Due to heavy traffic, a taxi pulled over nearby, and a middle-aged man wearing gold-framed glasses exited the vehicle, slowly approaching while holding an old-fashioned briefcase. Chapter 10. Carrying Pei Su and running away? After all, you are the youngest major general. At 4:20 p.m., there remained 40 minutes until the mathematics examination concluded. Inside the examination room, Pei Su meticulously reviewed his math paper, repeatedly confirming the absence of errors. The mathematics exam began with vigor, but concluded in exhaustion. Upon thorough checking and confirming his answers, Pei Su estimated his score. The math section seemed manageable, likely yielding around 130 points, with the last problem not being particularly difficult. However, he pondered that the Chinese examination would likely drag his score down significantly. This thought left him somewhat despondent, as he had focused excessively on his essay, neglecting other questions. It would be unrealistic to assert he had no regrets now. After all, who wouldn't he desire a better score? According to the college entrance examination standards, Pei Su's Chinese paper was destined to receive a low score. Pei Su's cousins were deeply entrenched in the research field, either from prestigious 985 universities or notable institutions like Harbin Institute of Technology and Beihang University. His older sister from his aunt's family, Su Zhihui, served as the chief designer in a military research team at Kyoto University. Meanwhile, his cousin Zhao Lin from his second aunt's family was the young third-in-command at a military laboratory in Shanghai. Each year during family gatherings, his aunts would boast about their children. If he failed this exam, Pei Su feared he might be unceremoniously removed from the family chat group by his mother, who cherished familial bonds. Hoping for the best, Pei Su checked his paper once more. Outside the examination room, Lu Saran fixated on the man who had alighted from the taxi. He donned gold-framed glasses, held a briefcase, and wore a slightly faded white shirt. At first glance, he appeared unremarkable. However, the more Lu Saran observed, the more familiar he seemed. Finally, she gasped, "Wang Hongzhe from Harbin Institute of Technology? Goodness, Wang Hongzhe. He is undoubtedly a top figure in military research." Throughout her journalistic career, there had been 3 instances where she was instructed to withhold news initially, awaiting higher directives due to concerns about leaks. Notably, Wang Hongzhe had participated in 2 of those military projects. It could be said that he was among the elite in domestic research. To her astonishment, he had now arrived at Wuzhou. The photographer murmured, "This place is truly a treasure trove of hidden talents." At that moment, 3 groups of people shared a common thought. Kyoto is indeed a place of remarkable talents. Inside the examination room, at 4:30 p.m., with half an hour remaining until the exam ended, Pei Su raised his hand to signal the invigilator. "Teacher, I would like to submit my paper." The invigilator kindly inquired, "Are you certain there are no errors?" Pei Su nodded affirmatively. "Very well, submit your paper." After handing in his answer sheet, Pei Su turned to leave the classroom. Upon stepping outside, he was startled to find several middle-aged teachers scrutinizing him intently. "You must be Pei Su," Wang Lan said with a friendly smile. Unable to contain his curiosity, he had stepped out for a moment to catch a glimpse of this legendary youth, a prodigy contended for by the esteemed Li Aigua and Major General Chu. It was he who had meticulously detailed the concepts and parameters for the 8th-generation fighter. Who could resist seeing him in person upon knowing which examination room he occupied? Pei Su instinctively nodded but quickly grew puzzled, asking, "Teacher, how do you know me?" Wang Lan feigned mystery, waving his hand dismissively. "It's nothing, young man. Your work is impressive. I must take my leave." With that, Wang Lan hurriedly departed with several other teachers, aware that their presence outside was technically against the rules. Yet, their curiosity had compelled them to step out, eager to meet this brilliant young man. Pei Su, somewhat bewildered, glanced at his watch, 4:31 p.m. Time to head out. Outside the examination room, Lu Saran's eyes remained glued to the scene. She mused, Kyoto is indeed a place of hidden talents. Let me count how many groups are waiting outside. First, there were academicians Wang Jiang and Li Yong from Lonka Institute. Next, the young Major General Chu Zhenhua from the Kyoto Military District. Then, the eminent military research leader Wang Hongzhe from Harbin Institute of Technology. That made 3 groups. Each individual was a prominent figure in their respective fields, now gathered here, likely awaiting their children. Just then, the photographer suddenly exclaimed, Sister Lu, the first student is coming out. The mathematics exam was scheduled from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., and according to the regulations, students could submit their papers half an hour early. Thus, from 4:30 p.m. onward, students would gradually begin to exit. Lu Saran turned her gaze toward the examination room, and, as expected, a handsome young man was walking toward the exit. As this striking youth emerged from the examination room, Lu Saran prepared to approach for an interview, but she witnessed a scene she would never forget. She saw, as the young man stepped out, Li Yong and Wang Jiang from Lonka Institute, Major General Chu Zhenhua from the military, and Wang Hongzhe from Harbin Institute of Technology, all simultaneously advancing toward him. Lu Saran exclaimed internally, could it be that these 3 groups are all here for this young man? In that moment of her astonishment, Li Aigua, standing beside Major General Chu, spotted his teacher Wang Hongzhe, and, filled with excitement, shouted, Teacher, over here, that's him. He pointed at Pei Su, who was waiting for the security guard to open the door. Pei Su. The onlooking parents. Lu Saran. At that moment, Li Yong also called out, Nephew, come over here. Wang Jiang chuckled, Nephew, come here, I have something to discuss with you. As the push-pull door at the school entrance gradually opened, an unexpected event unfolded. Major General Chu dashed toward Pei Su, scooping him up in an instant and turning to flee. Lu Saran, Li Aigua, Li Yong, Wang Jiang, and Qin Lao. Wang Hongzhe. Major General Chu had lifted Pei Su and was sprinting away, muttering, indeed, geniuses always attract attention. These folks are all here for this kid. Without employing unconventional methods, it would be quite challenging to take him away today. Li Aigua stood frozen in shock, then erupted in anger. Chu Zhenhua, do you even care about your reputation? Shouldn't the normal procedure entail fair competition? What nonsense is this? Picking him up and running away. Upon hearing these words, Major General Chu could not help but chuckle. Was it a jest? The esteemed academicians from the Dragon Science Institute were present, as well as Wang Hongzhe from Harbin Institute of Technology. These 2 groups were of incomparable stature. Who would engage in fair competition with you? It is only the foolish who seek fairness in competition. The priority is to secure the talent first. From his military experience, Major General Chu had learned one vital principle. Results surpass all else, regardless of origin. Seizing the opportunity to recruit this talent before such distinguished figures was the sole method to draw this young individual into the military. As the saying goes, when vying for a position, rather than courting the favor of HR, one should find ways to outmaneuver other candidates. The crowd stood frozen in disbelief, taken aback by the unexpected turn of events. Lu Saran, momentarily stunned, clenched her teeth. To carry someone away? Truly audacious. After all, you are the youngest major general in the Beijing military region. You don't find any issue with this approach, do you? Chapter 11. The Triad of Recruitment. Pei Su. He was being lifted by a stranger and whisked away. The onlooking parents could only watch in shock. Nearby, Uncle Li Yong stared blankly at the scene. Wang Jiang's cigarette had burned down to the filter, his mouth agape in disbelief. Wang Hongzhe stood frozen, lost in thought. Lu Saran, who had intended to interview Pei Su, fell silent as well. At that moment, no one anticipated that Major General Chu would simply carry Pei Su away. In the midst of this urgency, Li Aigua reacted swiftly, shouting, Kidnapper! Catch the kidnapper! The assembled parents were suddenly filled with righteous indignation. In the vast expanse of China, only 2 matters could rouse the ire of the populace: human trafficking and drugs. Regardless of the truth, they were determined to intervene. At that moment, parents surged forward like players on a football field attempting to intercept a running back, all striving to stop Major General Chu. Suddenly, an elderly security guard seized a pitchfork and, as Major General Chu passed by, deftly tripped him, causing him to fall to the ground. A throng of parents quickly surrounded him, pinning him down. Misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. Li Aigua hurried over to explain. The parents turned to him, and after a lengthy explanation, he managed to extricate Major General Chu from the situation. Soon, Major General Chu stood at the roadside, dusty and disheveled, casually brushing off the dirt from his clothes as if nothing had happened. Old Chu, Li Aigua remarked sarcastically. You certainly have a talent for this, carrying someone away and expecting it to be reasonable? Major General Chu replied gruffly, it's just age. My body isn't what it used to be. If it were my 20-something self during those grueling training days, I would have long since made off with the person. Nearby, Lu Saran, having overheard, burst into laughter. Remarkable. There was no hint of remorse for what he had done, only a sense of magnanimity in accepting the consequences. Just then, Li Yong stormed over, seething with anger. Where do you intend to take my nephew? Chu Jinhua. Major General Chu cast a serious glance at Li Yong. Directorly, please be lenient. He raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. The military is in dire need of talent. This child has drafted parameters for the 8th-generation aircraft. The army truly needs him. Li Yong, initially furious, was momentarily taken aback by Major General Chu's words. Parameters for the 8th-generation aircraft? What do you mean? He turned to Pei Su. What exactly have you done? All eyes shifted to Pei Su, who, feeling somewhat embarrassed, cleared his throat. Wasn't this year's college entrance examination composition about designing a 7th-generation aircraft? I thought I would take a risk and aim for high marks. So I included concepts and parameters for an 8th-generation aircraft, and even drew a design diagram. Li Yong, Wang Jiang, Old Qin, Wang Hongzhe. None of them had seen Pei Su's exam paper, yet upon hearing his explanation, they fell into a contemplative silence. Clearing his throat, Li Yong felt a wave of awkwardness. Wang Jiang quickly approached, placing both hands on Pei Su's shoulders, and said earnestly, Child, please tell us about the parameters of your 8th-generation aircraft. Initially, Wang Jiang believed Pei Su was merely the inventor of the 8th-generation aircraft concept. However, it now appeared that the young man had concealed much more, even having developed substantial parameters for it. Just as Pei Su was about to speak, Major General Chu interjected, Let me go first. I was here before you. Wang Jiang shot a disapproving glance at Major General Chu. Although he felt a bit intimidated, Chu persisted. The pressure in such a moment was immense. But for Pei Su's sake, he was willing to risk it all. Hold on. One at a time, Pei Su raised his hands, feeling somewhat helpless. He never anticipated that so many would seek him out. Chu Jinhua turned to Pei Su. Kid, why not join the military? Do you prefer the Beijing Military Academy, the Shanghai Military Academy, or the People's National Defense? The Beijing Military Academy and the Shanghai Military Academy were not of paramount importance. Yet when Chu Jinhua mentioned the Central Military Academy, the onlookers couldn't help but be astonished. The People's National Defense? To the average person, it might seem like just another military academy. However, for those present, the People's National Defense was far more than a mere academy. It stood as the pinnacle of military education in the country. It was the highest institution of learning for the armed forces. Countless officers, including retired major generals and lieutenant generals, served as instructors there. They were astonished, marveling at Chu Jinhua's connections that could facilitate entry into the People's National Defense. They were equally taken aback at his willingness to leverage such connections to recruit Pei Su. What a generous offer. At that moment, Li Aigua couldn't help but click his tongue. Having spent years in the education sector, he understood the uniqueness of the People's National Defense. As the foremost military institution, it did not recruit from the public, but selected from active duty officers. Moreover, entry was contingent upon competition. It could be said that if Pei Su were to gain admission, by the time he turned 30 and perfected the 8th-generation aircraft project, he would be promoted to a military rank. A major general by 30? That would make him younger than even Chu Jinhua. Chu Jinhua was willing to utilize such connections for Pei Su. What a remarkable commitment. Yet, after a moment of hesitation, Pei Su turned and said, I won't go. Chu Jinhua was visibly taken aback. His eyes widened. You won't go? Do you understand the significance of the People's National Defense? This is the highest military academy. Have you heard of Huangpu Military Academy? The Huangpu of that time pales in comparison to the current People's National Defense. Pei Su nodded. I know, but I won't go. While the People's National Defense is indeed excellent and suitable for advancing in military fields, it is not the right fit for me. With that, he resolutely declined. Damn it. Major General Chu took a deep breath and continued to present his terms. If you agree to my proposal, I will apply for research funding for you each month, totaling approximately 1.5 million yuan annually at the military level. Additionally, I will personally cover all your tuition fees. Upon hearing this offer, not only was Pei Su moved, but everyone else present was equally astounded. 150,000 in research funding? Such boldness is truly commendable. Even Lu Saran, observing from a distance, felt a wave of shock. In this uncertain situation, Major Chu boldly offered an annual research fund of 1,500,000. Such audacity. No wonder he is the youngest major general in Kyoto. Indeed, he is formidable. All eyes turned towards Pei Su. Wang Jiang eagerly patted Li Yong's back. urging him, Oldly, quickly persuade him. Such a promising talent must come to our Lonka for great development. Yet, Li Yong, with a profound gaze, unexpectedly refrained from persuading. I respect his thoughts, he said calmly as he looked at Pei Su. Coincidentally, Pei Su met his gaze, and they nodded at each other. Li Yong would never impose his uncle's authority to compel Pei Su to choose a path he does not desire. To him, pursuing what one believes to be right, choosing the industry one deems appropriate, and forging ahead unrelentingly is the most suitable path in life. Any suggestion that instills even a hint of doubt contradicts one's true intentions. Therefore, respecting his thoughts without offering any counsel is the best advice. Chapter 12. It truly is the 8th generation aircraft. What do you think, young man? Excitement flickered in Major Chu's eyes. Of course, rather than considering this 1,500,000 as your research fund, it could be viewed as your living expenses. Wouldn't you agree? Major Chu, like a comrade, draped his arm over Pei Su's shoulder and whispered, You control this sum. Spend it however you wish. However, if you truly wish to conduct research on that type of aircraft, 1,500,000 would certainly be insufficient, wouldn't it? Projects of this caliber often start in the billions. In the face of billions, what is 1,500,000? Thus, you may consider this as your annual living expenses while engaging in exchanges within the realm of national defense. The crowd was left in astonishment. What a blatant misuse of public funds. Yet, in truth, Major Chu's words held no fault. Such phenomena do exist within the realm of scientific research. After all, in genuinely cutting-edge fields, the research conducted by scientists cannot be unveiled in a short time. To encourage scientists, the state often accommodates their material needs in reality. What appeared as a misuse of public funds was, in fact, merely a so-called unspoken rule, tacitly accepted by all. It is akin to a company receiving project funds of 5 million when only requiring 450,000. The remaining 50,000 could be reimbursed among colleagues for their additional expenses during that period. This is all part of the unspoken rules. However, in Major Chu's rhetoric, it seemed as though Pei Su was reaping significant benefits. Indeed, the conditions sounded incredibly enticing. An annual living expense of 1,500,000 would sway anyone. Yet, contrary to everyone's expectations, Pei Su smiled and shook his head. I appreciate it, General, but I am not accustomed to residing in a military academy. Major Chu quickly seized the opportunity. I can arrange for you to be a day student. The mention of day students left the crowd somewhat numb. Meanwhile, the eavesdropping Lu Saran was plunged into utter shock. Goodness. Major Chu was indeed pulling out all the stops. No need. Pei Su beamed at Major Chu. General, I am not accustomed to studying in a military academy. It feels rather distant to me. However, we still have opportunities for collaboration. After all, since you have reviewed my essay, you must understand that I require military support to bring it to fruition. This statement left Lu Saran both astonished and curious. She was amazed that a high school student could articulate such flawless reasoning. She was also intrigued by the connection between Pei Su's essay and the project. What project necessitated military assistance? Reflecting on the peculiarities of this year's Kyoto College entrance exams Chinese paper, Lu Saran stiffened, contemplating an idea that even she found hard to believe. Perhaps this young man had outlined the design for the 7th generation aircraft in his essay. However, Lu Saran would never have guessed that she had not overestimated Pei Su, but rather underestimated him. The essay had never detailed the 7th generation aircraft. It was, in fact, a concept for the 8th generation. Alas, after another rejection, Major Chu felt a tinge of disappointment. He longed for this opportunity. Perhaps the military yearned for an exceptional young genius, one who could propel various projects forward. Ideally, he would be a young prodigy, bursting with potential. Regrettably, Pei Su had different aspirations. Yet, as Pei Su himself noted, the 8th generation aircraft project indeed required military support. Without the military's endorsement, Lonka Institute could not advance its research. After all, to develop an 8th generation aircraft, one must conduct wind tunnel tests, right? Crucially, this aircraft requires simulations of flight tests in a space environment, necessitating collaboration with the Aerospace Bureau. If Lonka Institute were to reach out to the Aerospace Bureau for access to their space wind tunnel laboratory, they would need to inform the military, who would send personnel to supervise. Coincidentally, both Lonka Institute's headquarters and the Aerospace Bureau's headquarters are located in Kyoto. As Major Chu pondered, he suddenly realized that while he may never possess the genius that is Pei Su, this very genius would undoubtedly become ubiquitous in the future. A sense of calm washed over him, and he broke into a broad smile. Young man, it seems we will be seeing each other quite often. Pei Su shrugged. After Major Chu stepped back, Wang Jiang was the first to approach. Nephew, do you remember me? I am your uncle's colleague. Wang Jiang appeared exceedingly enthusiastic, leaning in closer. He whispered, from what I just heard, it seems you have a design concept for the 8th generation aircraft in mind? Pei Su nodded solemnly. Indeed. Wang Jiang exclaimed with excitement. Could you share it with us? Of course, Pei Su replied, sitting down and beginning to speak. As for the 8th generation aircraft, if one follows my design proposal, it is certainly achievable. First, the computing power must reach at least H100 military-grade graphics cards, costing between 4,000 to 5,000, to establish a local AI server. H100, NVIDIA's high-performance graphics card, capable of approximately 20 trillion AI calculations per second, including power supply, wiring, and cooling equipment. The weight of this AI local server would be around 50 tons. As Pei Su gradually elaborated, a clearer vision emerged before Li Yong, Wang Jiang, and Old Qin. Wait. Wang Jiang interjected. How do you know that there are domestic military-grade graphics cards comparable to the H100? Pei Su chuckled in response. Well, as a Chinese person, I mentioned it in my essay. First-generation technology is released, second-generation technology is hidden, and third-generation technology is researched. On the surface, military-grade graphics cards indeed have yet to rival the H100. However, I believe that behind the scenes, not only are there cards comparable to the H100, but perhaps even those that can surpass the H200 may have already been developed. H200, an upgraded version of the H100, capable of 30 trillion AI calculations per second. Upon hearing this, Wang Jiang was momentarily speechless, astonished by the maturity of this child. He had seemingly grasped the psychology of the Chinese people. Indeed, there are hidden military-grade graphics cards designed to match the H200 specifications. However, he was astonished by the child's mature perspective. It seems that geniuses often mature early. With this thought in mind, Wang Jiang continued to inquire. What is the key to integrating AI? Pei Su looked at Wang Jiang. He naturally remarked, for the Intelligent Connected Space Station. At the utterance of this phrase, it seemed as if all questions and doubts were instantaneously resolved. Indeed, Wang Jiang murmured, AI is not merely employed for piloting aircraft and pushing performance to its limits. It also plays a crucial role in the Intelligent Connected Space Station, facilitating maintenance tasks in the vastness of space. Without AI, the space station would be incapable of promptly receiving and addressing the issues faced by fighter jets. However, with AI, the development of technology through the direction of the Intelligent Connected Space Station will significantly mitigate safety concerns once this aircraft is born. In the realm of space, it may even prove safer than in the atmosphere. Upon grasping all of this, Wang Jiang felt as though a celestial path was unfolding before him. At this moment, only one question remained. He turned to Pei Su and softly inquired, Pei Su, the concepts you are discussing, are they rooted in the 7th-generation aircraft or the 8th generation? All eyes turned to Pei Su. With a slight smirk, she replied, I have never claimed that the concepts I proposed pertain to the 7th-generation aircraft. This statement struck Wang Jiang like a bolt of lightning, instantly clarifying the multitude of questions that had been entwined with him throughout the morning and into the afternoon. Elder Qin was indeed correct. The 6 keywords mentioned by Pei Su were far too advanced. Multifunctional, space warfare, intelligent connected space station, 30-degree sharp turns, next-generation AI big data, and automatic versus non-automatic stealth systems. Among these, only multifunctionality and automatic versus non-automatic stealth were technologies they currently possessed. The remaining elements, internal gravity systems required for space warfare, the local database maintenance work needed for the intelligent connected space station and next-generation AI big data, as well as the various tasks necessary to achieve 30-degree sharp turns in space, required time for technological testing and extensive resources for thorough research. It was akin to constructing a skyscraper. One must begin from the ground up, lest the laws of gravity collapse the aerial edifice. In that moment, Wang Jiang had numerous inquiries he wished to pose to Pei Su, but as they formed on his lips, they crystallized into a single word. Why? He turned to Li Yong, overwhelmed by questions that culminated in that singular inquiry. He could not comprehend how Pei Su could conceive of 8th-generation concepts when the technologies and ideas surrounding the 6th generation had yet to be publicly unveiled. A gathering of esteemed academicians and elites from the military and aerospace sectors had convened for an entire week, generating over 100 proposals. Yet they could not even shape the concept of the 7th-generation aircraft. This sensation was akin to the physical principle that prohibits the construction of an aerial edifice. Yet Pei Su, single-handedly, rolled up her sleeves and soared into the sky, manifesting something extraordinary. Wang Jiang looked to Li Yong, hoping for insight that might quell his confusion. Yet, Li Yong was equally astounded. He had never anticipated that his young nephew's concepts were not grounded in the 7th generation but rather the 8th. Currently, the nation's most advanced technology was the 6th-generation aircraft, yet Pei Su had directly envisioned the 8th. Moreover, given that technology must undergo experimentation, if they followed Pei Su's reasoning and resolved the insurmountable technical challenges to create a prototype, they could very well consider the 7th generation completed. Li Yong's emotions were complex. Their family was large, with his niece Su Zhihui and his nephew Zhao Lin both emerging as elites in the field of research. He had grown accustomed to the talents of younger relatives in this domain. However, Pei Su's emergence felt like a thunderous revelation. If Su Zhihui embodied the spirit of Gauss and Zhao Lin that of Einstein, Pei Su resembled none other than Newton himself, accelerating humanity's technological advancement significantly. At this moment, Elder Qin spoke slowly, drawing everyone's attention. The elder gently placed a hand on Pei Su's shoulder and remarked, "Your simple utterance has accelerated human research by at least 30 years. Upon hearing this, a wave of astonishment washed over the others. Initially, they found it an exaggeration. But upon reflection, it seemed plausible. The gap between the fourth and fifth generation aircraft had spanned nearly 30 years. And the interval between the fourth and fifth generation aircraft from Demao had even extended to 35 years. Pei Su, proposing detailed concepts for the eighth generation aircraft in an era when the seventh generation concept was yet to be established, had not merely accelerated progress by 30 years. Such an estimation felt grossly inadequate. 50 years of advancement would not be out of the question. This praise was an unparalleled honor for others. Yet Pei Su found it somewhat peculiar. Rubbing his head, he replied, "Elder Qin, please refrain from such flattery. I just turned 18 after my birthday. Your mention of 30 or 50 years is far too grandiose." He had scarcely completed his college entrance examination. And now he was being credited with accelerating research by 30 years, an odd notion indeed. "Very well," Elder Qin replied with a gentle smile. "How did you find the college entrance examination? What are your plans for the future?" At this, Li Yong and Wang Jiang grew serious, and nearby, Major General Chu also adopted a noticeably grave demeanor. Initially, he had not recognized the elder's identity. But now he understood. Elder Qin was among the first cohort of students to study abroad in the United States. Unlike those who pursued careers, Elder Qin had dedicated his focus to advancing national technology. Major General Chu held profound respect for such an elder, yet respect aside, he could not allow Elder Qin to take Pei Su away. Pei Su, with a pained expression, said, "I initially thought I could scrape together a place at the bottom of the 211 universities. However, this time the language examination was reformed, and I was preoccupied with writing the theories on the 8th generation aircraft. My answer sheet was utterly blank. I suspect I can only manage a second-tier university now." Hearing this, Li Yong cast a sidelong glance, but Elder Qin merely smiled nonchalantly. "No worries. The college entrance examination is merely a means to select ordinary talents. True geniuses possess a greater margin for error. Do you wish to attend Lonka University?" The elderly gentleman spoke with a gentle demeanor, casually revealing a shocking revelation. "Not long ago, I had a discussion with Xiao Li, and we felt it was imperative to establish a gifted class at Lonka University. If you are willing, you may attend there." "Lonka University? A gifted class?" "Xiao Li," Major General Chu exclaimed. "Are you referring to Li Yunchang, the current president of Lonka University?" Elder Qin gave Major General Chu a mild glance and nodded affirmatively. "Yes, that's him." Pei Su keenly sensed that Elder Qin was indeed a person of considerable influence. Chapter 14. The tragic heroism of the lone warrior and the solitude of late-life geniuses. Elder Qin, please wait a moment. Just as Elder Qin contemplated sending Pei Su to Lonka University, Wang Hongzhe finally stepped forward. With a smile, he remarked, "At Lonka University, every individual is like a dragon, and the People's Defense has also produced a plethora of talented individuals. However, we at Harbin Institute of Technology are in dire need of such a genius." As he spoke, Wang Hongzhe became visibly emotional. "Our Harbin Institute, after all, is one of the 7 sons of national defense. I won't mention other aspects, but in the aerospace sector, we have been involved in the design of the 4th, 5th, and 6th generations of fighter jets. Yet, we have far too few young talents. Beneath the splendid exterior of Harbin Institute, renowned for its contributions, lies its own suffering, with the development policies in their hometown. A significant number of talents have migrated to wealthier regions, leading to a dire shortage of fresh blood at Harbin Institute." "Stop it," Major General Chu interjected before Elder Qin could respond. He stated sternly, "Isn't there an abundance of talent at Harbin Institute? Your doctoral candidates could form a regiment." Wang Hongzhe shook his head. "It is not as you perceive. The ratio of doctoral students, postgraduates, and undergraduates at Harbin Institute is quite low, and among them, those specializing in aerospace design and nuclear engineering are even scarcer. We genuinely lack fresh blood nurtured from within." Elder Qin remained silent. This was indeed a painful truth for Harbin Institute. Once a leading figure among the 7 sons of national defense, it has now achieved a commendable standing. However, with the changes in their hometown and 2 decades of industrial development in 3 provinces, the youth have been leaving their roots. "Are you trying to play the emotional card?" Major General Chu chuckled. "Our military is in desperate need of talent. 40 years ago, there were still a group of devoted individuals dedicated to national research. But now, in this materialistic age, where can we find pure scientists? Therefore, our military also requires a genius scientist nurtured from the ground up, not only to expedite various research endeavors, but also to invigorate the military atmosphere and alleviate its rigidity." Major General Chu spoke with conviction, yet the others merely sneered. Anyone can espouse grand principles, and who cannot play the sympathy card? Can Pei Su alone break the predicament of Harbin Institute? Can she single-handedly alter the stern atmosphere of the military? Ultimately, it all seemed like a child crying for milk. "All right," Wang Hongzhe sighed. "Let us allow for fair competition and consider the child's wishes." "Agreed," Major General Chu concurred without objection. Elder Qin nodded in acceptance. They had spoken for so long without inquiring about Pei Su's opinion. Let us agree on conditions and await her response. No interference, no coercion,